Several Hawaiian creation chants have been composed to tell the story of how our world came to be. The Kumulipo is one of those chants. It is made up of 2,102 lines that take us back to the beginning, the origins of our world as we know it. In the beginning, Po, the great, deep darkness of the universe, came forth. Through the joining of Kumulipo, the male element of our universe, and Po'ele, the female element of our universe, a churning of the elemental forces began. From Po, the darkness, Keal, the light followed, and our world came to be. The Kumulipo chant tells us that the world was vela, hot, as magma began to create our lands. The lava flowed into our oceans, creating the first reefs that became home to a thriving ocean world. The sea bloomed first with ko'a, or coral, limu, or algae, and then, over many periods in the Earth's history, all ocean species would eventually be born. Kānaka, or man, is mentioned in the Kumulipo only after the earth, sea, and land were formed. This is why the Kānaka Maoli revere ko'a as an older member of the ohana. It is our kupuna. This is Aloha ʻāina, the deep love and respect that guides us to connect with our home that feeds, nourishes, and nurtures our bodies, minds, and spirit. Moʻolelo songs and chants teach us this ancient wisdom. If we care for ko'a, then all life can thrive, and so will our planet.
Hold on, amazing that was. The ko'a, the coral polyp.
Creation.
Born
was the coral polyp.
Oh my God, all of that juices, all of that creative energy flowing.
Yes, we have so much to talk about in this episode today.
Oh.
My name is Maile Naehu, and I'm coming to you from Kumimi, Moloka'i, on the east side of Moloka'i.
And my name is Hanohano and Maile Naehu. Born and raised on this island of Moloka'i, aka the Paniolo Prince, Kia Iloko, Paniolo, Hawaiian hip-hop artist, hunter.
And my kani.
Yes.
We're going to talk a little bit about what ko'a means. So one of the meanings of ko'a is coral or coral head. And you can also say a ko'a in a longer version of its name. Ko'a is also a term for fishing grounds or fishing holes. And sometimes these are secret fishing holes that only certain lineages of Lava'i'a or fishermen would hold onto. They wouldn't tell anybody where these special ko'a or fishing holes were.
Guaranteed?
Yeah, guaranteed. And so these fishing holes, these ko'a, were marked by landmarks. And nobody knew what the landmarks were. And sometimes these Lava'i'a had to leave early before the sun even came up because they didn't want anybody to know where the secret spot was. There was also this really cool technique that they would use where they would go to the ko'a, the fishing holes, and they would drop their line, and their lines would have like multiple hooks on them, right? And they would catch hook, hana pa'a, hana ho, and they would take off with their va'a because they didn't want anybody to know that there was something below the va'a.
Oh,
and so they wouldn't unload all those i'a until it was far away.
Sly akamai.
I tell you. What are some other meanings?
Well, don't forget that ko'a also means fishing shrine or altar. Usually consists of circular piles of coral or stone, usually found near shore by ponds or by streams, and is used in ceremony for fish to multiply. And on bird islands, the same ko'a is used for birds to multiply.
Wow. How beautiful is that?
Heavy,
right?
yeah?
That's like just showing gratitude and connection to all of nature around us.
That's the way.
So that's what we're going to be talking about in this episode. The brilliance of our Iki Kūpuna, how they viewed coral and ko'a. And that's just scratching the surface when it comes to talking about ko'a. There's so much other cool stuff that we can learn, like moʻolelo.
ʻōlelo Hawaii terms.
Yeah, we can learn some scientific terminology.
We can learn about the biology of ko'a.
Yeah, even some cool facts.
We can learn about how we can help to promote and to help make healthier.
Definitely, and we can only understand that better if we know the threats to ko'a. So let's dive right in and let's get started learning about ko'a.
Yeah, let's start with some moʻolelo, Maile.
Let's go. Hina is a wahine akua, a female deity that you'll find all throughout the Pacific. Here in Hawaii, she has many different forms. Hina i kamalama, hina of the moon, hina o puhala ko'a, hina, whose opu, her stomach, passes through all the coral. But today I want to talk about hina pukui'a. Hina pukui'a is the wahine akua of fishing. Now she had her counterpart, her kani, Moloka'i, and he was a akua kane, or the male deity of fishing. And together, they perfected and became experts in making all different types of fishing traps, fishing hooks, and different styles of fishing and gathering. I wanted to share a little bit about the really cool part and cool feats and things that they did together. So one of them is that they constructed the first local i'a, or fish pond in Hawaii, which is located in Hana, and the name of it is Leho'ula. And there was this giant eel or puhi from Moloka'i that just wreaked havoc at that pond. Its name was Kuna, but that's a story for another day. Another really cool thing they did together was they birthed a son, and their son's name was ʻAiʻai. And together they raised ʻAiʻai to become an expert himself in all of these different fishing practices and making of hooks and traps and sorts. And there grew a time in Hawaii's history where the people became very greedy and they forgot to show gratitude and mahalo for the blessings that they had. And a lot of times this was done through ceremony, ritual, prayer, offerings. And so what they instructed ʻAiʻai to do was to travel throughout Hawaii and to teach the people the practice of these ceremonies and offerings, and to construct these altars, fishing altars, called koʻa. And so he traveled throughout Hawaii, taught them these practices, the crafts of making all these wonderful fishing tools, and the ceremony, and also the constructing of these altars. And with that, the people began to practice again the ceremony of gratitude. And that is why till today, many fishermen will leave a catch for ku'ulakai and hina pukui'a to guarantee that they would be protected and ensured that they would be continued to be blessed the next time that they went fishing. Eola.
Hurry up, brah, sweet.
Bro, hold on. All I need is my spear and then we're ready for go.
Oh,
Bruh, I forgot I don't bust my rubber last time. What do
it's okay. I mean, you can just look coral if you like.
Bro, why would I want to look at one plant when I can look at the fish?
Bruh, yo, coral's an actual animal.
Stop lying, bruh.
Bruh, not even lying.
Bro, what else do I not know about coral then?
Well, if you don't know. Okay, hold on a second. Aloha, this is Ilikia.
I know you're Ilikia.
Oh, anyways, if you don't know, now you mapopo. Corals are often mistaken as plants due to their hard outer layer made of calcium carbonate and their tree-like branches, but instead, they're actually living, breathing animals. Coral reefs can be easily affected by changes in the environment around it. It's documented that coral reefs that have been in ideal living conditions can live for hundreds to thousands of years. Some scientists even think that with the right conditions, certain types of coral could live forever. Corals can grow to be any shape and size. The different species of coral can be very diverse, from mound coral being able to live up to its name and grow huge, to brain coral resembling an actual human brain. Even though fully grown adult coral are stuck to the ocean's floor, it's actually possible for newer coral life to move around and actually swim. Most people believe that trees and forests create most of the oxygen on Earth, but coral and algae actually create 50% of the Earth's oxygen, despite only covering about 0.0025% of the Earth's surface. Because of the coverage and safety that coral reefs provide, coral reefs support over 25% of the ocean's life. Most of the time, you won't find coral in dirty water, since a lot of coral and sponges feed on the particles in the water, which in turn leaves the water around them clear and clean. Well, this is Ilikia with, if you don't know, Nai Mopopo. Over to you, Hano.
Wow, Ilikia, you learn plenty from me, eh? Nah. Anyway, we cannot talk about koʻa without talking about limu koʻa, which is algae. Koʻa and limu koʻa live together as partners in what we call a symbiotic relationship, which means the ko'a provides home for the limu ko'a, while the limu ko'a photosynthesize, which takes energy from the sun and turns it into energy for the ko'a. This is also how the ko'a gets all of its beautiful color. Not only that, but the ko'a emits a waste product called ammonium, which feeds the limu ko'a. Wow, this relationship kind of reminds me of me and Maile. Anyway, this relationship is huge for the livelihood of the ko'a and the reef, because ko'a that hosts algae can produce calcium carbonate, which is the hard skeleton that forms the reef, up to 10 times faster than non-symbiotic ko'a. Hey, if you don't believe me, go fact check them. Go Google them. Come check out the reef with me. But I'm going to change my shirt first because it's hot. Boom. I brought you guys here, outside Kumimi Point, where our fringing reef either starts or ends. Up to you. But along our southern shore of Moloka'i, from the southeast side of Kumimi, it goes all the way down to Haleolono on the southwest end of Moloka'i. And along the southern shore, this is the second largest fringing reef in the Pacific Ocean next to the Great Barrier. In fact, back in the day, they referred to Moloka'i as Moloka'i Ko'ola'au. Ko'ola'au because you could stick your boat from Haleolono all the way to the edge of Kumimi. This reef provided choke fish and choke protection from the waves. In fact, this study here says that coral reefs reduce wave energy by 97%, which helps to combat erosion and gives a shelter for my favorite, loko'i'a. In fact, Auntie Maile going to tell you guys more.
Thank you, Hano. This is Rock Point. This area is very well known for several different things, but it's because something really special happens right out there. If you look behind me, you'll see that the waves are breaking. The waves are not breaking by the coast or by the road. They're breaking out there because there's a papa out there. Papa is the Hawaiian word for reef or coral reef. Some people say apapa or apapapa. And because of this natural movement of the waves crashing, it creates an ideal environment for he'enalu. He'enalu means to slide on the waves or surfing, which began in Hawaii because of the choice conditions that you see right behind me. Some other practices were done in these types of areas on the coral flats, such as gathering. The wahine mostly had the kuleana of gathering inshore. They would go into the tide pools, along the coastline, on the reef flats with their keiki and other wahine, and do lots of gathering of limu, shellfish, vana, or sea urchins. But those are some practices I just wanted to share with you that we get to enjoy till today because of our papa, our coral reefs. Now, limu is not so often practiced today, and people sometimes gather improperly. So you want to be sure that when you gather limu, you never pull it from the root. You have to be very gentle. And when picking, you just gently pluck as you would a flower, a very delicate flower, and that way the limu will continue to grow and bless us with lots of onopoke. Eola no. In this episode, you might have heard a lot of new words or words that you already know that have to do with ko'a. So let's practice na ʻōlelo ho. Makau.
Makau.
All right.
Hi.
Ko'a.
Ko'a.
A ko'a ko'a.
A ko'a ko'a.
That means coral. Ko'a.
Ko'a.
A ko'a is an altar, a shrine, and it also means fishing grounds or fishing hole. Uku ko'a ko'a.
Uku ko'a ko'a.
Coral polyp. Pūkoʻa.
Pūkoʻa.
A coral head. Kānaka.
Kānaka.
Kānaka means a person or a man. Moloka'i koʻola'au.
Moloka'i koʻola'au.
Moloka'i of the canoe polar. He'enalu.
He'enalu.
Surf or to slide on waves. The next one is papa.
Papa.
Apapa.
Apapa.
Apapapa.
Apapapa.
That's a fun one, huh? That means reef or flat surface. The next one is hina pukui'a.
Hina pukui'a.
Moloka'i. Female akua of fishing and her counterpart, ku'ulakai,
Ku'ulakai.
the male fishing akua. The next one is ahupua'a.
Ahupua'a.
And that's a land division that extends from Moka, the mountaintops, all the way to the kai, the ocean. Lawai'a.
Lawai'a.
Lawai'a is a fisher person. And the next one is moʻolelo,
Mo'olelo.
story or history. Wahine
Wahine.
or vahine,
Vahine.
and that means female or woman. The next one is kani,
Kane.
and kani is a man or male. Akua,
Akua.
akua with a lowercase a is a deity or a Hawaiian god. The next one is lokoi'a,
Loko'i'a.
and that's a fish pond. Puhi,
Pui.
ooh, the eel, the puhi, the he. The next one is limuko'a.
Limuko'a.
And limuko'a is coralline algae with all those beautiful waiho'olu'ur colors, yeah? Waikai. Well, now it's time to talk about the not so fun stuff. We learned a lot of really cool facts, but now we have to start building kuleana and understanding how we can make things better.
Yes.
And the best way to do this is knowing what the threats are to ko'a, the causes, effects, and possible solutions. So we're going to start with erosion. Erosion is a huge one that we see all the time here in Moloka'i, yeah?
Yep. It happens frequently.
Yeah, so what is erosion?
Erosion is when dirt, soil, and anything on land gets washed down and into the ocean.
Yeah, and so that's one of the causes that chokes out the coral, right? So when the ʻāina is not healthy and there's lots of loose lepo, like from ranching or invasive species that are not grabbing onto the dirt, it gets washed out, big heavy rains, suffocates the coral, kills the coral, clouds the water, and it's just devastating. So what are some solutions to that? How can we help with erosion?
We need better land management. We need to know what kind of animals we are putting up in the mountains. We should know whether or not the animals belong there up on these mountains where the slope is so severe. You know, we just need to be very conscious of what we do that affects the land that will eventually affect the ocean.
And a perfect example of that, I think, is the ahupua'a, yeah?
Yes.
Ooh, the ahupua'a system had it going on. From Moka to Makai, from the sky all the way down to the seafloor and beyond. They thought of all those things and how everything affected everything else. And so that brings me to another threat. This threat is really closely related to erosion because erosion oftentimes is caused by really erratic weather, heavy storms that just swoosh everything out into the ocean on our beautiful little islands that aren't made to catch all of this lepo, all of this dirt. And one of the major causes of this crazy erratic weather is
Global warming.
global warming. One of the main culprits or causes of global warming is these fossil fuels. And the fossil fuels that I'm talking about is oil, gas, fuel. Now, 90% of carbon dioxide emissions in our atmosphere come from these fossil fuels, and they're detrimental to everything around us. The air, the soil, the water we drink, and of course the ocean and the ko'a. So what are some effects that it has on the ko'a?
Well, one of the first initial and greatest effects is bleached coral.
Yeah, bleached coral, which means they're dying.
They are dying. They are turning white, ghost-like, and they are just losing all of its color and losing its life.
So that's called thermal stress. These coral go under major thermal stress because of temperature changes in the ocean. They bleach out and they become full of infectious diseases because they're just sick. They're not doing well. So what are some solutions that we can look at to help prevent this?
Well, I always keep thinking of the ahupua'a system because in the ahupua'a system, you find everything you need where you live.
Right.
So one of the biggest reasons why we're screwing up the planet is because people want strawberries from California, they want wine from New Zealand, they want lobster from Maine, and getting these things all to you is causing this great carbon release that we
And I
shouldn't
think
be doing.
everybody's a little guilty of that, but we can all make little changes. So we try to fish, we try to hunt, we grow our own food, we try not to drive too much, and just be conscious of those things, yeah?
That'll work.
Yeah. Let's go on to harvesting and selling of ko'a. This is something that you're pretty familiar with too. But coral can be used and harvested for many different reasons, like limestone. They grind it up to make limestone, which helps to make buildings, cement, roadways, all of those things. They also use it to make jewelry. And then some people are harvesting it for recreational things like aquarium.
Yeah.
Like these beautiful saltwater aquariums. So can you talk a little bit about what that effect has, harvesting and selling the coral?
It destroys ecosystems, and it reduces biodiversity in that ecosystem. So pretty much you're just wiping out a whole area of life, living, non-living things that make up this community underwater.
To contribute to our world and make our world more cushy and comfortable.
Like when you're
and
reading it,
pretty.
like from buildings to jewelry to aquariums, what are we doing?
What are we doing? Right? We have to start looking at more sustainable materials that we can use for things like that.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So another solution that we could use is always going back to the mana'o of our kupuna, the ahupua'a, is that we all shared resources belong to everybody, and we need to malama them. It's not like, oh, I can grab this for me and make money from this. Like, that came from, you didn't make it. So
Yeah.
who's saying that you own it and you can take it, right? So the mentality of the ahupua'a is that we share these really precious resources, and no one person owns it or can profit from it. But we need to malama it, so we
Yes.
have it forever.
And like that same idea that we live on an island, and the earth is an island in the sea of stars, and there's limited amount of resources.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We need to
Mahalo.
remember that.
You got it. We're gonna move on to dredging. Dredging, just the word alone is like nails on a chalkboard to me. It's kind of like what it does actually to the ocean floor. So dredging is done to create like underwater pipelines. What are some other reasons that they dredge?
Marinas, bays, piers, wharfs.
Clear out area again for human recreational activities or purposes, right?
Yes.
So we can bring in the big barges, the big ships into the harbors and so forth. They aren't always like coral free, so they make it so it's nice and clear for these things to happen. And the effects of this is just beyond detrimental. So can you imagine just
A cruise ship throwing anchor sometimes, and while the anchor is trying to set, ripping out football fields
and these anchors aren't small anchors.
of koa.
This is like cruise ship anchors, huge anchors, just ripping away. Another way that it just kills everything besides ripping everything is, again, it brings up all this sediment, right?
Yes.
And so the ocean floor is just cloudy, and it clouds out everything below, so photosynthesis doesn't happen. The coral gets sick and they die.
Yeah. There is a really sad story on Moloka'i back in the 70s where they dredged out the reef to make a marina and put all the dredging material and filled up a Hawaiian fish pond.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. To come to find out that that was very illegal and the project failed.
Oh, way. And then it's there forever, destroyed forever.
Yes.
So that brings me to the end. I know you might feel overwhelmed and say, oh, what can I do to help? Well, we mentioned something, so just being more conscious of those things that we talked about. But one immediate thing that you can do to help is when you go in the ocean, wear reef safe sunscreen. So you want to make sure that it doesn't have oxybenzone or octinoxate.
Not safe.
Octinoxate. Read it on the screen. Stay away from those things. Read the label. Make sure it's not in your sunscreen, and you're good to go. Another way you can help is if you're in a boat and you have an anchor. You mentioned a cruise ship, but sometimes we have smaller boats. So when we anchor, what should we do?
Try anchor where no more reef.
You got it. No reef. And last but not least,
No touch the coral.
No touch the coral.
No touch the coral.
Mai ho'opa ike ko'a. Well, I hope this helped. E ola ike ko'a.
Mahalo e nā kūpuna. All that came before and all that we are made of. From the depths of the oceans to the sky above. We humans are just one piece of a massive puzzle. So let's use our biggest muscles to win this epic struggle. For the ko'a and the reef and the health of our ocean. Putting pono practices into forward thinking and motion. Through the coral, we find the pulse of our planet's temperature and health. Are we humans the problem, or is it something else? All I know is us ʻāina warriors are here to help. Be pono in your actions, malama your ohana, contribute to a thriving community, and stand up against injustices to planet and culture. He pūkoʻa kani ʻāina.
So where are we?
We're in Moloka'i General Hospital, and I have mucus, jellyfish mucus in my eye, and it's burning. Oh. They said pain from 1 to 10. I said 11, and I was losing my breathing. But then I remember this morning I already was kind of clogged, but I thought I was real close to death. I don't think anybody can handle this kind of pain. And then the doctor said this is his first known case of having jellyfish mucus in somebody's eye. He couldn't understand how it happened.
You did a case study.
Case study, Hanohano case study. Boom, right in the eye.
Oh.
Oh, it hurts.
No.
I need help.
Pretty soon, mate, pretty soon.
In the children, I see the light. Courage, culture, hope, love, shining so bright. It's a delight if you ever get the sight to see the fire in our keiki spirit ignite. Pio ole, ke ahi o kalama ku e.